Hello everyone. We're just gonna wait a couple minutes to get started here so a couple more folks can join, and then we will get started with today's Instagram Live. Today we have one of our psychotherapists with us. Her name is Katie Shivanis. So I will be introducing you to her in a little bit. But before we get started today, I actually have something a little different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a video with you guys that will then lead us into the rest of our conversation with Katie. So here we go.
Hi Janelle, how are you?
I'm not doing very well.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What brings you in? Why is your life so messed up? So, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel sad,
How does that make you feel?
frustrated, and helpless.
How does that make you feel? Alright, let's dive into your deepest, darkest trauma. Let's unload that right here, right now. So, go ahead.
Well, it was a Sunday and I was at Jurassic Park and I was waiting in line to get ice cream. And the velociraptors got out of their cage and came and ate my ice cream.
And if you didn't have ice cream, they wouldn't have eaten it.
But I wasn't even near the velociraptor cage.
Well, it wasn't a T-Rex, so I mean, it wasn't really that big of a deal. Alright, Janelle, well, it sounds like your life is a real mess. After your traumas at Jurassic Park, I think we can assume that you have dinopathy.
Right. So if you're just joining now and you missed the beginning part of that video, don't worry, you will have to go back and rewatch it. I will post it later. But it was just a little bit of a really corny skit for the introduction of this. So now I'm going to be joined by Katie, so here we go.
Thank you so much for having me on here. It's an honor.
So welcome. We're so glad to have you.
It's a time to be alive. Insta-live.
Insta-live it is. All right. So today you're going to be talking about misconceptions of behavioral therapy,
Yes.
which kind of goes off of the video that we had made. Rather corny, but those are some of the things that people may think therapy is like, or automatically think from like movies. So I mean, I know for me, whenever I think of therapists, honestly, one of the first things that I think of is someone being like, how does that make you feel? So that's like the first thing for
Freaky
me.
Friday.
Yeah, exactly. So some of those misconceptions, though, a lot of people may have them because of movies and whatnot. So
yeah, I chose to kind of go off of movies and television because if you have never experienced therapy for yourself, that is often a way people see it perceived, and it is usually inaccurate. So wanted to start with that. So again, my name is Katie. I've been at Success for a little over a year now. I wanted to talk about this. I think it's just a very prevalent topic, and for anyone who is interested in therapy or how it works, but also how it relates to TBI. For me, these all come from my personal experiences and thoughts. They may not reflect every therapist's thoughts and experiences. And if they don't agree with me, then don't see them. Just kidding. Just kidding.
don't have Katie as your therapist.
I also apologize for my severe redness. This is what you get for sitting outside and enjoying Mother Nature on Earth Day of all days, and I thought it would be a great opportunity, and I regret it. So anyways, here we are. So I want to start off. A lot of the times when I say we're at a party or an event and you talk about work and you let people know that you're a therapist, oftentimes the first thing I hear is, oh, I bet you're analyzing me right now. I'm not. I think it's interesting because I usually do that face where I'm like, oh, I'm not, and I can't obviously go into a whole spiel about why I'm not. But I think one of the things for me is that people assume it's a lot of analysis in therapy. For me, I perceive it as a lot of support, a place of non-judgment. So therapy is just, in my eyes, less about assumptions. So in that little clip, at the end I said, I'm assuming you have this, and diagnosis based, and therapy just isn't cut and dry like that. I'd say it's a lot less black and white, a lot of just, it's a journey, for one thing. So I think one thing I do analyze, and this is why I chose this topic of basing this off of television and media in general, is that I do analyze when I'm watching TV or movies. I analyze how therapists act and just the script they're given, how they do therapy on screen. So I do not analyze other people. It's more about support, being there. But I will say with videos, and I'm sure we all do. I'm sure if you're a doctor, you analyze doctors on TV. If there's CRTs on television, I'm sure you analyze them.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a film major, and so when I watch movies, I tend to pick things out and, not critique them necessarily, but just be like, oh, they did this to film that part or whatever. So, I feel like everyone kind of has their analyzation, if that's even a word, of
it is.
different things.
Definitely. So one of the first things, so I'll start off here, I have my notes so I don't draw a complete blank, is that
they're all analyzing you right now. Which, by the way, I can't see the questions or anything, so I can't see the live, so I need your... Anyway, so I'm sorry. Go on.
Anyways, that's okay. Technical difficulties. So one thing I've noticed, therapists often go very deep, very fast. That is one example I had on our little clip. Right away, oof, your life is messed up. Tell me about it. Tell me everything. Deep, dark secrets. And no wonder people would not want to go to therapy if that's how it is. I'd say a huge thing. And this is an example. So one of the things I thought about was Grey's Anatomy. I love Meredith Grey. She is just a character I've always loved. And she does go to therapy in that, and at one point the therapist says, we have only a certain amount of insurance will cover this many sessions, so let's get going. Let's do
Rush
this.
It.
Yeah, and it just obviously doesn't turn out to be a great relationship for much, at least for the beginning. They really had to work through that. So I think just... there's lots of names and things that are, we can label things and really look into it. But for me, people just want to feel heard for the most part. And I think that's a very important part of therapy, that validation and that support. That's different than an analysis, feeling like you're just being screened for something or some sort of problem. Rather than just, it's a fast-paced world, and I think it's just nice to have that time to just sit, feel like you're being fully heard and validated, and especially with the judgment. That's kind of moving into my next one. Never mind, it's not moving into my next one, but does that make sense, that I was saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, that just goes with having a conversation with anybody. You don't know them right away, so you got to take time to kind of get to know them and, really get down to the nitty gritty, I guess you could say. I don't know.
Yeah, and I will, so that, it does lead into my next point, so I retract that. If only we could cut that out, but
Yeah,
we can't. Therapists, you watch Dr. Phil on TV and stuff, that's in front of a crowd. That's in front of, oftentimes people feel judged. They feel like there's a right or wrong. They feel like if they don't agree with what the therapist is saying, especially Dr. Phil, sketchy.
Hope he's not watching.
Yeah, I hope he's not watching. It just, there's that lack of comfort there that you can just express yourself and not feel like the other person's going to judge you for what you say or correct you. Stuff like that. So I think that's a little hard to do. That's portrayed on, a live TV with a live crowd. That's very hard to feel like you're not being judged by any of those people. Maybe you aren't, but...
in today's world.
Yeah, I think that's a very anxiety-inducing way of looking at therapy, is just, this is how it is, black and white. If you don't feel the same way that the host or the therapist, says, then you're wrong. And people feel rejected when they feel wrong in therapy, when they feel invalidated, because what's the point then? So that was just another one of those ones. I think therapists often on TV are diagnosis-based, solution-based, and some therapies are solution-based therapies, but not all of them. With TBI, I would not say TBI is always a solution-based therapy process, because it's a huge change in someone's life that they can't always get back to where they were. It's a lot of wellness and a lot of maintaining quality of life. And that's a very important part of therapy that often isn't portrayed in TV shows and media, because I would say it's not as interesting, but it's not as, TV is very fast paced. It's very, you go in, you find a problem, you go out.
Kind of cut and get to the point. And,
yeah.
They don't show all of the...
Yeah, and it's just, I think there's a glamour factor as well on media, TV, movies, that, it's a lot of just simple, small things. It's not going to be this huge breakthrough all the time that usually is expressed in therapy, that, oftentimes they resent the therapist, then they sort of acknowledge that they need therapy, and then, it's this huge breakthrough, and the character's just changed, and if that were it, I would be a magician, right?
Yeah, you would be.
It's a lot of just working with the person, working at their speed, not pushing them or pulling them, but really truly working at their speed. That's another thing. If they feel rushed or controlled as far as the process, that it's truly in their control, not in the therapist's control, and it's important for them to feel like they have this process as their own. Doesn't look like anything else. I think a lot of TBI clients as well are very unique in their own process. I cannot say that I do this with all clients. It's very different, and it's a lot of person-centered therapy, which I would say I incorporate. It's not about a whole kind of, I think this will work for everyone, cookie cutter, but more so doing it uniquely. So one of the other points I wanted to bring up is that therapy can often seem like a punishment on TV or movies. It can seem like a last resort. Even the Grey's Anatomy one, that one, they are usually mandated. They can be mandated by this person's work. They had a breakdown. They have to go to therapy and do this many sessions, and then they can get back to work. And so then, obviously, if it's mandatory, I would say it can be. They can resent the patient or client can resent the therapist right from the start. So I think, as some therapies in real life can be mandated. I would say it's just not as cut and dry. I'd say it
makes sense. So again, too, another thing, they portray a lot on TV, movies, whatever, or just maybe misconceptions people may have is, it's a last resort thing. Like, your life is crumbled. Like,
your life is a mess.
My life was a mess. I was at Jurassic Park. My ice cream got eaten by the velociraptor. Like, that was it. Like, it was my last straw. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you're going to have to go back and rewatch the beginning of this. Otherwise, I just sound like a crazy person. I mean, I am, but whatever. But yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where people just are like, oh, this is my last resort. I need to go to therapy. And I feel like it's also portrayed that way too.
Yeah, it's a shame factor. And I think that's a thing a society I think is working on in general, is that it doesn't have to be this huge deal or secretive that people are in therapy. I think it's really a sign that you want to improve and work on yourself, and I think that's something that needs to be more celebrated rather than the shame factor.
Yeah, and I think it's also great too because the therapist doesn't know it from your perspective. So when you're especially starting with somebody new, like when you have new individuals and clients come in, you don't really know their whole story, but you can look at it from a different perspective than someone that knows them, knows what they've been through. Maybe even like a caregiver. You're with someone all the time and you kind of get frustrated and they're always, struggling with something, and it's a more unbiased
perspective, and I think that's another thing that TV shows also don't do as well in media. Therapists become very emotionally involved with clients or patients, and I think that can really
deter people.
It can, because the point of therapy is that unbiased, you see me how no one else sees me. And that's really important to some people because this depends on their background. Some people have positive backgrounds, supports, things like that, friends, family, but others don't, and that's where they need someone to come in and really just be unbiased. A lot of people feel that shame from judgment from other people they are emotionally attached to. So therapy kind of eliminates that, and it's just, kind of a professional relationship, working through those emotions and things like that. I think another thing is people feel shame. They can feel very worried about going to see a provider because that judgment, but also I see a lot of what I've analyzed is a lack of almost just human qualities, or the therapist is infallible. They are just always right, kind of robotic, cold, just come off as very like, the person will be talking and then, the therapist will be writing, and like I was in the video, I couldn't even see my face, so I came across as very unapproachable. So I think the approachability factor is a big thing that you don't always see. I would say actually one show that does a very good job, if anyone's have you ever seen Monk? You've never seen Monk?
I've never seen Monk. I know of it though.
I like that. I've watched that like multiple times. I watched that when I was little, and there's two different therapists because the actor actually passed away, but the way they portray both therapists is usually very calming, professional, but just a lot, that willingness to kind of if you come across as, well, I'm always right and my client is always wrong, I think then they sense that. So you have to come across. It's an important quality of being a person too, of acknowledging, when you need to review things, rethink things, think maybe there's a different way or different, I think a lot of the times therapists just come across as the ones that, they just are all knowing. So that's just a big one that I've noticed, and it comes that you have to be human when you're in therapy. I always really feel like that, coming across as someone who is allowing someone else to stay comfortable. A big thing I hear is I don't want to go to therapy because I don't want to cry. And to me that makes me sad because a lot of people don't want to cry in front of other people because they don't want to make the other people uncomfortable.
And who likes crying in front of anybody?
Well, exactly. No one loves crying in front of everyone, but it's an important part for people going into therapy to know that the therapist, it's kind of like going to the doctor. I don't want the doctor. It's
not their plan to make you cry.
Yeah, well, it's not the plan.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know why I'm speaking for you. Like, I'm not. You're my guest. Like, I don't know.
I'm here for it.
I need therapy after this.
No. Yeah, everyone gets a free therapy session after this. Just kidding. I can't do that.
So we have somebody that wrote, "I love your puppy." So do you want to kind of go a little bit of a backstory on that? I mean, I think that's also something that maybe utilized in therapy.
Yeah. Well, for me, my personal kind of life mission is just to help people. I'm in this field for that reason. It's a labor of love. It's a vocation for me, and I love what I do. I want to incorporate every part of my life to doing that, whether it's with my family, my friends. But one thing, I've always grown up loving animals. I was pre-vet in college, and that did not work out, in case anyone was wondering, because I can't do math and science, that's, whatever. So I went into therapy, and one of the things that I think I incorporate a lot of different therapies. There's CBT, and I could list a bunch of them, DBT. One section of therapy is animal-assisted therapy, and I've always been interested in that. So my dog Mulligan, he's a Bernese Mountain Dog, he's 6 years old, got him when he was 7 weeks old. He is one important part of therapy is taking care of yourself, and he's a love for me. We have just done so much together in 6 years, and it's really, really nurturing to take care of something. And with Mulligan, he was neat. I brought him into work, that was yesterday, and He is a certified therapy dog, so I took him, had to take a test for that, a lot of obedience training and things like that, which he was very natural at. But, you know...
It was just really cool to see everyone's reactions.
Yeah.
And it's just, it like, I don't know, I like fed off of everyone's energy yesterday, like when they saw him. It was just like, it was just such a good feeling.
They're just...
Not even my dog.
Yeah, well, but animals are just different that way. They're just, animals always exude a different type of energy that I think a lot of people get benefits out of, and it's really, really special. So Mulligan does that for me, and I took him to get tested so that I could bring him in, so... I appreciate whoever's comment that was. He is my best buddy, so I love sharing him with my line of work.
I think that's great. So, you know, the other day when we had posted, you know, like a preview about this live, we had a couple questions. So I just wanted to bring them up. And if anyone else has any other questions, please ask them now and then we'll get to them. But so one of the questions is, do most people with brain injuries have behavioral issues?
I think it really depends. That's like a murky area because you have the person's background, what their personality was like before their brain injury, who their supports are. That really affects someone. What their age was when they had the TBI, what age they are now, how long they've had the TBI. Sometimes the longer they've had it, the more just stress their body is under, and then therefore you get irritation, you get frustration, them not reaching their goals, things like that. So with this, I think it really depends on the location of the TBI. You know, that frontal lobe is a big part of your decision making, behaviors, emotional rationality, judgment, impulsivity. So with that, I think it just really depends on a lot of different things. It's hard to say. It's my answer. Wasn't really an answer, but it's an answer.
My explanation of an answer.
Yeah.
All right, and then the other one was, what are some behavioral challenges that you face during therapy?
You know, I think a big one is if someone, like I was saying a little bit earlier, if someone doesn't really want to go to therapy, or they're suggested to go to therapy by someone else, so they kind of are in there. You know, it's really just working to make the person feel comfortable. I think a lot of people do have assumptions settling in, so just making them feel, I'm very corny and quirky, if you haven't noticed. And, you know, I really just try and talk to the person, really just socialize and more so make them comfortable. But it's meeting them where they are. I think that's the first step with behavioral issues. If they don't want to meet in a room, then going outside, going walking.
It's funny. So actually, as you're saying this, one of our questions online is, can therapy be done outside of the office setting?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's why my face is so red. I was outside earlier. And I absolutely think it's just about incorporating the interests of the person and their values. And things like that, and whoever is most comfortable. I'm not going to tell someone, you know, we have to stay inside unless it's pouring or freezing outside. I have had to say that. have had to have that conversation before, unfortunately. But other than that, no, I love doing therapy outside, doing different activities. You know, I've done growing little flowers or doing plants and stuff like that. So. Yeah, just really incorporating what the person also wants to do. A lot of the time people get therapy from just driving and obviously I have not done therapy in the car, but therapy and talking to another person in the car is so therapeutic for a lot of people because you're not directly talking to someone else and just like having you
analyzing them
and staring at them. So I think it's just doing a lot of different activities and stuff that's therapeutic that helps with the process.
That's great. That's great. Does anyone else have any other questions? I think too, you know, it changes the mood of some of the individuals too. Like depending, like if you are outside or wherever you are, you know, that has an effect on maybe how much they're gonna talk to you, enjoy therapy. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
But does anyone else have any other questions? Katie's got a lot to say.
I did a lot of talking. I don't normally talk that much, but maybe. But
yeah, she does, but that's okay.
I didn't realize we really used up a lot of our time here, but that makes me happy, and I'm so happy to do this.
And we got some comments too saying that Mulligan made us feel so good yesterday.
I wish I would have him on here, but he is tired today.
Everybody needs a therapy dog. Every work, employment, every place should have a therapy dog or a cat because, you know, some people may be
That's
allergic.
true. There are therapy cats, so.
There are therapy monkeys. You can get a therapy monkey, and that monkey could go and get you a cookie, coffee, whatever. Like,
that is.
I want one.
The basis of good therapy is having someone to go get you a cookie
or coffee.
Yeah.
Anyway, one more question. Benefits of group therapy. Ooh.
I think a big benefit of group therapy is the relatability, that it isn't just you staring at someone one-on-one, that you all have something to relate about, and that you can learn from other people's experiences, how they have handled it. If that works for you, you know, you really get to see other people's thoughts and feelings, and I think that's not just coming from the therapist. Sometimes it hits harder when it's coming from someone who's just more like you, that you're like, oh, I could do that too. So I think that's a big, you know, that you don't feel, a lot of the times when people are experiencing issues, they feel very alone, and I think part of the group therapy is just feeling less of that and feeling less alone.
Yeah, that's great. All right, everyone. Well, that is it for today's Success Live. I hope you all have a happy Friday. Again, if I make some references about dinosaurs and stuff and you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm really not that crazy. Just go back and watch this video once we post it later. And thank you for everybody coming and joining today, the positive comments. Hi, Riley. Thank you. Would you say group or one-on-one therapy is better? Ooh, you're hitting us here at the end. I feel like I'm like one of those people trying to push someone out the door and end something, and you keep asking more, which is fine. So, would you say group or one-on-one therapy is better?
I think they're both equal. No, that was the quick answer. No, I think it depends on what your needs are. I think if you want that relatability factor, you know, you have less attention on you in a group. So if you really want that direct focus and you're comfortable with that, then individual. But if you like more of hearing other people's thoughts, listening, if you don't want to talk the whole time and you want to talk a little, then maybe group would be better. So I think it really depends.
Depends on the individual. And I mean, they may even, you know, come in one day and be all about a one-on-one session, but then the next day be like, all right, you know, like, let's do a group one.
Yeah, a lot of them are combined. A lot of people do individuals and they do groups, and then therefore you get...
Mix up.
Yep, best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds. How long does therapy take after a TBI?
That is a good question. A question I don't have the answer to because I think everyone is so different.
I think Steph's just trying to keep you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, the hot seat. Yeah, I don't even have an answer to that. That you know, it just really depends. It depends on the individual. When we have new clients come in and they ask that, there's no answer.
There's no measure. I mean, that's the same thing I feel like sometimes with cognitive rehab therapy. I mean, you know, I have individuals ask me like, am I almost done? When am I done? Like, how far am I? And you know, every day is different too.
Yeah. It is. It really depends on how the person's, you know, they have a lot of health issues other than the TBI. There's so many things that go into play. I said earlier, you know, age, how long they've had the TBI, how old the person is, what their family background is like, you know, their levels of motivation. People for rehab process, it requires motivation.
Absolutely.
And that's a big thing that a person may or may not have had, a quality they may or may not have before the TBI.
Where can I find therapy after a TBI? Success!
Reppin', yeah, here, there, and other places, but...
That's your answer?
Yes, it is, and I'm sticking to it. Yes, but mostly Success.
Oh, man. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in, and you'll have to join us next Friday. If you have any other questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to DM us. Feel free to send us questions when we repost this video. The questions are never ending. And, you know, we will definitely have Katie back here. So if there's anything you would like to see her cover in a topic in the future, or just really anyone else here at Success, feel free to suggest it. That was bad. All right. Anyway, I'm out.
Ooh, that's a wrap. Thank you.